Alright, so I am going to try something new today. Today, we're looking at this Eureka the Boss SE Bagless White Track. We're going to be putting these in that motor. So, I tried to clean and re-grease the motor bearings on this. As it turns out, there was a lot of hidden damage on them. So I've already tried to replace the motor bearings, I think, twice, but they weren't good bearings. I'm just gonna say this now. eBay and Amazon are not the best place to go to if you're looking for new ball bearings. I got these off of Granger. They're a little more expensive, but they are high quality bearings, so I will be using these instead. So the first thing I want to do is grab my little magnetic dish, which I did not. And now we can start taking the thing apart. I'm going to start off with this hood right here. The nice thing about these is that you do not have to disassemble the entire vacuum to get to the motor on these early Eurekas. I'm also going to take off some extra pieces, such as the spin duster assembly, the filter assembly, and the dust cup assembly. Now, the reason why I want to get this thing running is because it's one of my favorite bagless machines. I personally think it's one of the best, if not the best, bagless machines ever made, too. These are no joke, that's for sure. So, I'm going to take off some extra components. Now we can start off down here at the base. Now we're at a better position. We can start off by taking off the front hood. These things, these old Eurekas, I'd say, are extremely nice because you can access the brush roll on these things with relative ease, unlike some modern day machines like Sharks, Dysons, even some other non-fancy brands. 3 screws in the magnetic dish. The hood comes right off. We have a brush roll. This is a relatively new aftermarket brush roll. Well, not really aftermarket. I got this from Sanitaire's website. The belt, which is probably due for a replacement. Want to work with me. There we go. This belt is probably due for a replacement. Now we're going to move on to these 3 Torx screw bits down here. I originally tried to do this exact type of video on my Riccar Contempo. I think it was 4810. But unfortunately, There's a part of the motor shaft that is a little too thick, and that damaged one of the brand new bearings as I was putting it on. But that also took a lot longer than this did. Now there are also two screws in the back. There's this one over here, which is usually shielded by the filter housing, and since, not the filter housing, the duster assembly. That doesn't lock anything. I will snap the hose back into place. If you hear any high-pitched whining in the background, that is my dog. She is a whiner. But that's okay, we still love her. And there is another screw right here, hidden by the filter assembly. This one is at an awkward angle, so you might need to take off the hose to get to this one, but it's not that challenging. We flip the entire machine over, and then we flip up this tab in the back, and there you go. You have access to your motor, your main suction motor. Isn't that wonderfully simple? Little tug pulls it right out. I have a couple of wire nuts in here to secure everything in place. That one just fell off, but I'm not worried too much because I have some larger ones like this blue one right here readily available, as I bought a new set of them. You can remove the headlight bulb if you want to. I will, to sort of decrease all the weight. And now we shall move this whole thing to this little table I have set up. I'll call it the motor table. I want to get this rubber piece out of the way, and of course, you don't have to do it, but I'm going to take off this fan casing seal. It's a little tough, but you'll eventually get it off. Alright, on to the motor table. There you go. Our big and pretty hefty Amatec Lamb motor. I think this motor, let's see, it is their Shanghai division. Yeah, I think there is a date, October 2004. Makes me wonder what year this vacuum was made. It is 2005, so they made this vacuum about a year after the motor was made. First thing you do when you service this motor, at least first thing I do, is I remove these brush springs. There's our carbon brush. This may not look extremely long on camera, but up close, that is still a good chunk of life that is left in this motor. I'd say this motor is not even half worn. At least the brushes aren't even half worn. Sometimes this spring can be a little troublesome. So we will push it out. Now, that kind of says a lot about these motors, because I think this vacuum is pretty well used. Got a 6.3 millimeter socket. With that, we are going to take out the two retaining bolts that hold the entire motor together. There is your brush and bearing housing, bearing spring, magnet, which we are going to safely set over here on the floor, and everything else. Now for this big nut right here, I'm going to try to remember which way it goes. I think it is this way, yep. We're going to undo it with one of these tools that I just found laying on the ground. Motor nut, motor washer, then pull up and out comes our armature. Now these are the bearings I originally bought off of eBay. You might think, well, Jack, those are bearings they used to use on old vacuums, so why are they suddenly bad? Well, these bearings are old. The grease in them has dried out over time. I tried some Teflon infused oil. That didn't do a whole lot to help. So I'm going to pull off these bearings. We are going to put on the new ones that are not who knows how old. Now, these are some of the motors that I like to service. I think these are pretty easy to service motors. As you can see, this bearing just pulled right off. Now to get to this other one, you're going to have to use a couple of flathead screwdrivers to sort of persuade it upwards, which is what I'm going to do. Don't want to do too much force or you might damage the commutator, but just got to get a little bit of leverage, which unfortunately I have to do in between my legs, so you won't be able to really see it, but the bearing just pulls right off. So now we are going to grab a couple of standard sockets. We are going to tap these new bearings on. Alright, welcome to the floor of the vacuum room. We have our armature. I've already tapped in the top bearing. Now we just gotta tap on the bottom one. I don't remember where I got this from. I'm guessing it's from a 2-fan motor, probably from a Sharp Twin Energy that had its rear bearing explode. But I'm going to use that as a guide to hit the bearing on the inner race to avoid causing any damage like I did with the Simplicity. No, not Simplicity. Ricard Contempo. So I got a mallet. I'm going to use the rough end to just give it a few taps. And now our bottom bearing is in place and both feel very smooth. So that is that. Now we get to put the vacuum itself back together. Alright, now we are back on the motor table and we are going to reassemble this thing. So it's pretty straightforward. Goes in there, make sure it's all through. This washer on. And we tighten this nut with our magic tool we found on the ground. This on. And we get our 6.3 millimeter socket. Tighten up these bolts. Brushes go back in. Then on our springs for the brushes so that they keep contact with the commutator. There we go. That is our freshly rebuilt Eureka motor. Now it's time to head back to the vacuum. Alright, back at the foot of the vacuum. I'm going to take the rubber components, which is this motor seal. Put that on. This rear seating seal. Also put that on. There we go. Take this small wire nut I got out of a Kirby and toss it off to the side. All the bits of wire out that happened from several past wire nut issues. I had too small of wire nuts in place, and let's just say that didn't go over particularly well, which is why we have the wire nut from a Kirby I unfortunately couldn't save, which sucked because it was an older one, and I prefer the older ones over the newer ones because they're less of a pain to deal with. And shall tighten these wire nuts. think Amatec still makes these exact motors. And what's funny is Sanitaire still decides not to put on headlights to their Force models. Take our headlight bulb, stick it in the headlight bulb socket. Okay. Oh, where is it? Don't forget your sound insulation foam. That's what makes these things their lovely quietness. Take these. Don't want that. This to this. Push. Guessing that when I put this together, I had this the other way, so. Yep, that makes a lot more sense. And there's that. So I'm going to get 3 of the star bits or the Torx bit screws. Going to fasten in. Stand it up. Our other 2 Torx screws. That's back in. Oops, the hose around. Going to move you upwards and a little further backwards. dust cup. Tighten this little nut or screw. It's supposed to be a thumb screw, but can't really get a good grip on it after certain tightening, so just go in there with a flathead screw, tighten her up the rest of the way. Take our exhaust filter, which, even though I got this exhaust filter from a vacuum store when I got this machine like a year or two ago, it's old, so it's starting to disintegrate, and paper is not holding up so well. Also takes a little bit of force to get it in there. Exhaust filter door. Take our belt and we loop it around this motor shaft. Oh. Also got crown on something. Take our brush roll. Spin it till the belt is properly seated. Take out Phillips head hood screws, which surprisingly didn't come with the machine. When I found this on the side of the road, it did have one single Phillips head screw left in the hood. And then it fell out as I was taking it home because I walked. No, I actually biked down to go get it. Because I think I got this 2 years ago, so I wasn't able to drive when I got it. And I was a biker. And I don't mean like Harley Davidson, I mean like dirt bike on the bike trail. Occasionally going on gravel. There you have it. Now, it's time for the test to make sure you did it properly. And now it's time for the final test. The switch is on. There is a power strip off camera that I will plug it into and then flick on to turn it on from a safe distance. Now, as you may notice, the power cord is gray. The original power cord for this machine is black. This cord is a shark cord that I put on because the old cord was it had a couple of brush roll burns in it. It was split in some places, and it was just a little too short, so I put on a longer cord that's in better shape. And now it's time for the final test. Did I do it correctly? Plugging it in. In 3, 2, 1. Perfect. And now, the end, the review. Well, it's time for my final thoughts. And for this, I'm going to talk about what I think about this machine and essentially why I think these should probably be available again for residential use. They're a nice, sturdy, well-built upright. For a bagless machine, they have quite a bit of power, so you're not going to be cut short of cleaning abilities with this. And if you have one this old and it's still running, well, that shows you how well built these are. Now, I will say that if yours is constantly burning through belts, you might want to replace the brush roll, because chances are the brush roll is almost gone. But this is a solid, reliable machine. It's not too flimsy. There are replacement parts still available for these under Sanitaire, because Sanitaire essentially still makes these. And I'm glad to have this machine finally back together and running properly, because it is my favorite bagless machine, and I'd say it's probably one of the best bagless machines ever built. I would not take this over the bag Sanitaire variants, but I would take it over pretty much anything available in big box stores today. That's all. I'm just glad this thing is back together and it doesn't sound horrible. That's all I really have to say now. So, thank you for watching this. I'm Jack's Facts and Safety. This has been really an experiment video. I wanted to see if I can do some kind of video like this as a way to sort of show that even though I haven't uploaded for a while, I still am working on stuff. And sorry for not uploading vacuum cleaner content for a while. I've been busy with life. I'm a junior in high school, and junior year kind of sucks. So, yeah. But thank you for watching anyways. I'm Jack's Facts and Safety, signing off, and I'll see you in the next one. The next video, number 4 of my 5-month Nebraska City 2T22 Siren Saga.